Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast, Everything Product. We talk about different insights on the latest technologies with a product mindset. This is Phani. I'm a product manager at Intuit.
I'm Sid Saladi. I'm a product manager working for Best Buy.
In our previous podcast, we talked about different crypto concepts and different products. If you want to watch those videos, click on these links here. And in this podcast, we are planning to talk about two things. The first one is non-fungible tokens or NFTs, and the second one is the platform Opensea. Awesome. Sidhu, let me start with a simple question. What is the platform that you use for NFTs? And did you buy any NFTs so far?
Yeah, I've used Opensea for buying my first NFT. So it's just following the trend where I've went in and searched for the least priced NFT there, and I kind of purchased that and I have it at my wallet now. So it's kind of waiting till it 10x's or 20x's. But yeah, I've used Opensea for purchasing my first NFT.
Nice. Let me start with another question now. What do you think is an NFT and how do you think it's useful?
Sure. Yeah. To put it into a layman's term, right? I feel that it's the whole concept is basically digital ownership and history or trail of things of the ownership, I'd say. So anybody who's basically wanting to have a verified digital asset could basically have it on the blockchain, right? So the underlying technology that basically powers all of this is blockchain, where a blockchain helps you to create a smart contract, and that contract is tied to a digital asset, and it's tamper proof, right? So imagine I have a digital asset. P- I so I can people can verify the authenticity of that asset through the blockchain, and I can pass it to you, and the blockchain also has the history or trail of the asset. So I think that has a lot of different use cases, and I would say I would also like to hear what your thoughts are on what NFT is.
Yep. Let me try to simplify what you told, right? So let's take a painting that was created by Picasso. It was created, let's say, what, decades ago. And when you see that painting right now, how will we know whether it is authentic or not? There is no easy way to tell that other unless and until you get an expert who is expert in looking at those paintings and tell that, hey, these are the strokes that clearly indicates that this is the painting that was created by Picasso. NFTs can solve that problem. You can actually connect a physical asset to a digital asset. And in this case, the digital assets are non-fungible tokens, which are created in the blockchain. So once you connect this digital asset to a physical asset, it cannot be changed in the blockchain. Even after another 5 decades, if someone comes back and scans this digital asset on that physical asset, they will know that, hey, this is a painting that was created by Picasso, and this was owned by these five people in the last 50 years. That's a very simple way of identifying that the authenticity of a specific physical asset in a digital world.
Yeah, that's right. And also in this world where everything can be printed, 3D printed so easily, where organs can be printed, so replicating a painting is not that difficult, right? So how do you verify that authenticity? And I think this technology basically kind of sits on that and trying to verify everything that you get, and also the authenticity of things. So that's a pretty good topic to dive into, right? So when you look at NFTs, what do you think are the major use cases? Like, why do people even use, and what are the existing stuff?
The most known use case so far, I think, is the art. I think that is where it got very popular. Where in the past, let's say Sidhu created an art, a painting that he thinks is worth $10, and in order for him to sell it, he needs to go to a seller who's probably sitting in Los Angeles, who has an art gallery, who has a lot of paintings. Now Sidhu gives the painting to that person and takes $8 from him. Now that person has to find a buyer, and there is a mediator who is getting all of this art from hundreds of artists and selling it. Now NFTs, since they have that authenticity of the painting, you don't need a mediator. You can mint that NFT on a platform like OpenSea, and you can sell that to several people. And that's the core concept that brings the NFTs. There are several use cases that can go with this, right? The first and foremost is the art that we talked about. But beyond this, you can also take it to several other things like, let's say, DAOs, where you're creating a decentralized autonomous organization where you want to sell certain land, or where you want to sell certain objects, or let's say you want to uh, rent an apartment or anything like that, where you can use a smart contract, create an NFT, and sell it to the customers. What else do you think are the use cases that are involved here?
Yeah, I think pretty much I align with what you're saying, Funny. But one interesting thing, right, as I was reading a lot of this stuff, what kind of I was trying to understand is, right, when we have been talking about art and people connecting things and people worrying about the authenticity of things. But, why do even people buy art? Was my first question, right? Like when you try to understand human behavior and, consumer behavior, why do even people buy art? What are your thoughts? Like, why do people buy art, or why do people want to collect baseball cards? Why do people want to collect Pokemon cards? Right? Why do people buy expensive jewelry? Why do people buy Burberry bags? Right? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that can be taken in two ways. I think the first one, right? They trust the quality of the product, or they trust, or they are very passionate about what is happening within that world. So, for example, like you're talking about, right? Let's say Burberry bags. People trust that the bag is valuable because of the quality or the way it was produced. And what they would believe is down the line, the bag would be worthy even more. The same thing applies to like baseball bats, or like someone signatured baseball bat or someone's signatured picture. It's something like which they would relate to it, so they would
Yeah,
want to keep
relate.
it along with them. And at the same time, many would also think of it as something that could be more valuable.
Yeah, that's right. So that's a very good point, right? So I think people buy all of this or collect this because I think they are either emotionally connected with it, like art, right? It reflects what they think, reflects with their principles, or it could be the values which it carries, right? And also it could be status, right? Like it could elevate their status, right? I think that's where luxury brands and all of these come in. So I think it's humans are naturally inclined towards um, um, growing up the ladder or getting up the pyramid, where they basically associate themselves with these luxury brands and luxury things to kind of elevate their status. That I think that's the human inclination in a lot of status driven cultures and all of that stuff. So I think that's where NFTs come in, where they validate the authenticity of things. So imagine I a popular star, right, like Dwayne Johnson or somebody creates an NFT, and I he says 100,000 for the NFT. I buy that and put it on my profile picture. I get more likes, more followers, because that's scarce, right? And I can do that. And I can imagine going into the next level where I can sell it to another person, right? As the value of Dwayne Johnson increases, the value of NFT increases and all of that stuff. So I'd say it's basically ingrained in the social behavior of people of having social currency and all of that stuff. So that's why the concept is pretty unique, and also helping all of these use cases in the real world get being brought into the digital world, right? So I think, and also the natural extension to that is have being in the metaverse, you owning all of these digital assets, showing them off, having a digital wallet with all of these things and all of that stuff. That's it.
I've also heard about different use cases, right? Where showing your physical view of yourself in the digital world. So, for example, let's say you buy a specific shoes in a physical world, and let's say going to the metaverse world, right, where everyone want to represent themselves the way they are, or the way they would want to be. So, a digital asset which replicates what the physical asset would be shows a physical view of yourself in the metaverse world. And coming back to the concept, right? Who are the actual customers of NFTs? So, like we talked about, artists who would want to create the art. But do you think the actual artists are creating the NFTs? The NFTs are minted with let's take CryptoPunks. CryptoPunks, there are like thousands of images created from the same background. Okay, or let's take Bored Apes. It's basically an ape which is bored, which has like different kinds of artifacts attached to it and that are being sold. I don't think it's an actual artist or in the history of being an artist who's actually doing this, but rather someone who's familiar with the digital tokens, who's familiar with what do you say, good marketing or like good latest technologies, is building this and making like probably like millions of dollars. What do you
Yeah,
think?
yeah, I agree with that. So I think we are in a phase where people there's a lot of scarcity for demand for NFTs. That's where there are a lot of players who come in and create something which is it doesn't take much time but has humongous value, right? So, but I think as there are more and more players and more artists come into the ecosystem, the value of things keeps increasing, right, and all of that stuff. So at this point it's more of there is very huge demand, and anybody who creates anything on the blockchain gets sold for 100,000, sometimes even 10-20,000 dollars, right? So I think once that suffices, the actual use cases would come up, where I feel that use cases like music, right? So imagine I'm a musician and I have minted an NFT for music. That's basically available in the internet. Anybody can actually use my music and give me money, right? So that's something which I could do. And there's also gaming, right? Gaming could be one. There could be ticket sales. There could be fashion, luxury goods, art. A lot of these use cases actually could be the actual use cases why people use NFTs. But as you know, right, all of these trends go up for the wrong reasons most of the time. But I think once everything weathers off, the actual use cases come into light, let's say.
I totally agree. One other thing that I would want to call out, right? A centralized database for such things. So, for
Yeah.
example, you called out ticket sales. A ticket master doesn't have to rely on a specific database. Rather, they can just have a blockchain where they put all of their tickets into that and send the corresponding NFTs to the customers. Or another couple of real world use case, right, is the reward systems. So, for example, if you have restaurants and if you want to have a reward system for your customers, instead of you using a typical software that is handling your point of sale systems or your ERP systems, you can just use blockchain to have all of these NFTs, which can be used to track the rewards. And let's say if I want to transfer my rewards to you, I can pass my NFT token to you, which basically transfers all of my rewards to you. So there could be a lot of use cases that we can do in the future where instead of relying on one software, a centralized system such as a blockchain could help in expanding all of that. Or I'll add one last thing, right? Let's take Gap and Banana Republic. Okay. They're like common brands, but they'll have different reward systems. And let's say down the line, if you want to acquire Express, okay, and Express has a whole new reward system. Now you can't combine both of these systems because don't those two technologies doesn't talk to each other. Having a centralized system which tracks all of this would make it extremely easy for both the customers and the companies.
Yeah, efficiencies, economies to scale. So I want to also piggyback on that, right? So I think even now, when we buy maybe skins, hats, and all of that in different games or Roblox or different platforms, you actually have to keep it there. It's not that like the real world where you can carry that and move everywhere, right? So when it's centralized, you basically have all of these things which you bought in different ecosystems where you can actually house it in a virtual house or something where you can show people off and all of that. So I think that's a pretty good use case in that itself, right? Yeah.
Yep, that's correct. I still see that. So the top user or the top customer for NFTs right now are the people who are having a digital presence of themselves. This can be gamers, this can be artists who are primarily looking at the digital world, or the folks who are building applications on Metaverse or on Web3. So those are the customers for the primary customers for this. But anyone beyond is just sitting in this bubble to say, hey, there's something going on, let me just buy.
That's right. Yeah, and also I've heard about a lot of other use cases, right? Imagine you were part of a conference which basically is very, uh, uh, very close to a community, you could have a digital proof that you attended that, and you could basically come back and network saying, okay, I've been to this conference and I've listened to your talk, can we met? So there are a lot of use cases, and basically everywhere you go you have a digital trail, and people could verify your credentials when they come to you, if
Yep.
it's authentic or not. Yeah,
I've also seen that in the certificates. I think one of my team members recently showed it to me. He attended a few of the crypto courses, and after that, what they sent him is an NFT. Basically, that NFT validates that that specific person has taken this course and has completed the course and is certified to do something.
that's right. So imagine now doing that now, where you have a resume and you claim a lot of different things. You don't have a digital trail of that, right? But when you have an NFT, maybe let's imagine a software where you upload your resume and it verifies all the credentials and it goes to the recruiter saying, okay, this guy has done a lot of things which he claims that you have done. Right?
Oh,
Imagine that
cool.
use case. It'd be so cool, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Um, let's probably end NFT topic with one last question, right? Where do you think you will see NFT in the next, let's say, 10 years?
Yeah, man. It's a broad. So I feel that the biggest use cases for NFTs is having creator economies where product managers and people, individuals, and also people who build products can monetize on this. So I've seen Twitter releasing their profile marketplace where they can mint their avatar, basically, right? You pay money, so that's adding extra monetization for the platforms. And Reddit does that too. So all of these are communities, right? So imagine I am part of a product community. I would want to dress up as a product manager, or something that resonates with the whole culture. So when communities come together and you add this personalization factor into it, I think it takes you a long way, right? So I think pers- creator economy, personalization would go a long way. And the next thing is metaverse, right? I think having a place at a metaverse, I would see in 10 years people would have houses in metaverse, cars in metaverse, skins in metaverse, everything in metaverse where they can show up. So that's another thing. And also I feel that, as you said, right, a single database, interoperability between different platforms and all of that stuff, that could also be big. So these three things are, I think, kind of the future which would happen, and make use of NFTs in the next 10 years. What would be your view on that?
Similar, actually. I think the very first one, I'm going back to my presumption or the assumption, right? The primary customers of this right now are people who are in the digital world, who have a strong presence in the digital world. I think that would still continue 10 years down the line. The primary users would still be them. And if the metaverse grows by that time, uh, it would be NFTs would play a key role in metaverse. The real world use cases, right? Other than the gamers or the other than the people who have digital presence, the other one is primarily for like tracking, probably especially in health sector or especially in the food sector, where people want to make sure I'm eating certain things which is produced at a certain place, which is at a good quality. I think that is where like NFTs could play a key role in identifying or tracing what happened at what time.
Yeah, and also, right, as you're talking, I was also thinking about it could be used by governments by distributing a lot of stuff to people, verifying the authenticity, if he's the right, does he has the right credentials and all. So basically, you can build a lot of this contracts that basically gives people something as they satisfy all of these needs, right? So basically, I think smart contracts are very basic now, but as complicated and as more and more logic goes into them, the more and more complex problems they can solve.
That's true.
Yeah,
Awesome,
so
Srinath.
imagine I'm citizen of a country, and I have to basically, I have a right to get something if I vote, if I've been a good voter for last 5 years. That could be used, something like that. Just was thinking that, yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah. Last thing to add on that, right? I think in the next 10 years, I would think it would still be dominant in the private sector rather than government, because by the time government trusts the technologies, implement the technologies, could take time.
That's, yeah, makes sense.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's a good segue to Opensea. Let's talk about the product Opensea and what do we think about that product and where would it go? Let's start with your experience, right? I know you said you use OpenSea. How did you feel about the product?
Yeah, for me, I think from a first time experience as a user, right? I do. So the main goal is to buy something. I don't know why, because everybody is buying. I
Mhm.
don't know what to buy, right? Because if I'm doing that in a stock market or something outside, I could have something that I could relate to, saying, okay, there is a brand like Apple, right, which I use, right, and it has good numbers, and I do my research in that. But for an NFT, what are the credentials that I verify to buy it? And how can I predict the value of it? I feel that all of these are, I know that space is maturing as we go, but I feel that all of these things would help me buy better, which I'm not finding in the current product. So it's more of browsing through a lot of different things, finding the cheapest one and buying, and just making sure that, okay, I don't miss the train. I've bought an NFT. I'm at that space at this point. But I think they've done recent changes, and they have grouped things into collectibles. There's also, I think, a different segments, I guess, where people can go and browse towards. But yeah, what has been your experience?
Yeah, I've used OpenSea as well a little bit in the last few months. I was also trying to do one of my initiatives within Intuit, like trying to explore. So what we have done is trying to mint NFTs using OpenSea and see if we can build a system that can help our customers. My experience is they're not very intuitive. It's probably a good place to like go see what is there. But if someone wants to try and do something, I don't think they're there. I'll tell you one more thing. So let's start with the customers. Okay, who are the customers for this product? Okay, when we think of like NFTs or anything beyond, there, I would consider NFTs as something that is more than basic. Okay, so you're catering to a customer who's more knowledgeable in terms of blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and stuff. So you would want to give capabilities where that person want to do something. Okay. Uh, is it easy to mint NFTs? Is it easy to build applications using NFTs or any of the Web3 technologies? You go to the marketplace right now, I feel like they're in the very nascent stages where they're not giving all of these additional capabilities.
Yeah.
Because the core customer is someone who is more, I think, intermediate or more than one. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel that. So it's almost like an Amazon without a recommendation engine, right? Where you have all of these things put in, and you have certain categories, and also they rank by the creator, I guess. I think this is the only data which you have. So I essentially have no idea what to buy, where to buy, how to predict the prices, and what is the use case and all of that stuff. As you said, right, as you add more, layer in more and more of data, people will get more context and do the research, and then by basically do a better knowledge decision of buying things on the
Yep.
marketplace. But I feel that most of the marketplaces are like that. So it's not just OpenSea, right? There's also Coinbase, which have entered, right? There's also even Binance, who have NFT marketplace. It's something which everybody's exploring, I guess. Iteratively, they'll make it better as we go.
That is correct. Actually, let me quickly show you the app, right? And I'll also talk about like how I feel about that. So this is the OpenSea app, and this is their homepage. Okay.
Mhm.
I feel like if someone is a novice, as soon as they come here, it's overwhelming. So they're talking about art, collectibles, domain names, music, photography, sports, etc. So and if I scroll down, they're talking about notable drops. They're talking about, hey, basically they're telling that hey, these NFTs are available. You want to buy trending collections, most active, etc. Honestly, I spent like half an hour today with the thought process to say, okay, should I buy something? After half an hour, I couldn't decide to say, hey, this is something that I want to buy. Let's say I want to do NFTs, like mint NFTs. How do I do that? So I've created in the past some NFTs, right? So these are some of the things I just randomly created with the help of one of my cousins.
Mhm.
But what do I do with this? How do I make it better? Do you give me any recommendations on how do I improve? How do I make it better? Are there any tools that can help me create? Nothing. All of this, if they do all of this, right, that's when they would cater to that customer who can actually build a lot of things for them.
So it's more of empowering the creators with the necessary tools they have so that they can give better value to the customers, right? So I think that's a very strong statement which you say, right? Like where you when you empower the people who actually build things, it makes it more better and creates more value. Yeah, that's
Exactly.
absolutely right. Yep. So
And
have you tried selling any of those NFTs?
I actually added it to say, hey, this is the auction, and
Okay.
I put like some $10 or something like that to see if someone would buy. That's also a good learning, right? Because people won't buy something random. People, like you said, the behavior is when people think the value of it is gonna grow, that is when they would buy something. So if you want to actually sell something, create something that could be a value for the customer or they could pursue this as a valuable product, and that is when you will be able to sell.
Yeah, also, I was actually trying to see what use cases can I think of that NFTs can help. And we have started this podcast very recently, and we have a lot of things that we need to do a podcast. So I was thinking, imagine if YouTube integrated with Opensea and it provided us a bunch of music recommendations while we upload our podcast to start with a title, and also maybe some digital art that comes in and pops up. So we could basically buy that immediately, right? So that could be a use case for that, and we have the copyright right of that as we are buying it. And I think these are some use cases which are pretty interesting, where it gives people the freedom to do all of this with the permission of the original creator itself. I think that's a pretty interesting use case for me. And also, I feel that writing something also is something which could be something that can be tokenized, right? So imagine I publish an article on LinkedIn. I see a
Mhm.
lot of people I refer to when I publish articles, and people refer me when I publish articles, right? So that could be monetized where I could do it. So I'm not sure if that person likes me referring them or not, right? But most of the people are open. But what if I have a way where I can pay him? I basically say that, okay, he's happy, I'm happy, and I'm referring him and using that content. So I think there are a lot of use cases, but yeah, these are like really good ways of how people at OpenSea or Coinbase NFT can think of and integrating.
That's good. Okay, Sidhu, let me ask one last question to you. If there is two things that you would want us to take away about NFTs and OpenSea, what would that be?
Okay, the first thing about OpenSea would be right if they equip their users with the necessary tools for them to decide on what to buy. I think that would be the first thing, because I think all the research now is going outside the platform, and then people come in to buy things. So that's the first thing. And I want to piggyback on what you said. I didn't have this thought before, but equipping the artists also with the necessary tools so that they can provide the enough value to it. So that's on the OpenSea side. And the takeaways for NFTs, I feel that now the power of NFTs is that it can digitize everything, right? Everything we do and everything. So the economy is pretty high, and the year-over-year growth is also pretty high for the NFTs. So I feel that next 10 years, it could even go more than 1 to 2 trillion, right? Where everybody buys things, exchange things, and all of that stuff. It's a big economy which we can explore. So these are the two takeaways. What about you?
Nice. Let me start with NFTs. So, from an NFT standpoint, one takeaway that I would say is the blockchain or the technology in itself is growing into different digital assets, and one of the topmost ones is NFTs. So, I would highly encourage people to like continue to follow this and understand more about the tokens. And the second one that I would say is follow metaverse, because the customers that are using this NFTs, I strongly believe, are the people who would be going towards metaverse. Like if we continue to learn metaverse, then that is where we would see like a lot more use cases where NFT can play a major role. Regarding OpenSea, I would still say the same. Uh, they need to focus on customers who are not just buying, because these are people who might not be understanding things. But if they want to actually grow, focus on the people who can actually grow their platform, give required tools to them, and continue to expand their platform as well. Right now, if I need to use Ethereum to pay $60, that is a biggest pain point that they will be going through. Give solutions where people can easily transfer certain things or make those fees easier for customers, you will get a lot more transactions and the platform would blow up.
Yeah, and also one more point which I want to add is for all the product managers out there, right? So if you have a product that is consumer facing, maybe having that NFT lens would help you monetize better or help people uh, kind of own that platform or could relate to it or could show themselves, right? Their avatar and all of that stuff. So that could be spaces which you can explore. So I feel that that's a good space to start tapping into as you go.
That's awesome, Sidhu. Thank you so much for your time. We love the podcast today. And for everyone who's watching, if you like this podcast, please like, share, and subscribe and share with all of your friends. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.